Welcome back to part 2 of this bag Mercia. Links for part 1 are in the description box below. Let's start where we left off in the previous video. Now we go and place the lining on top of the main fabric, and that is almost matching perfectly. Before we go ahead and attach the lining, we need to fold it into half like so and match these little rectangle corners that you have at the bottom. And you have to make sure that this panel, the bottom panel, is the same as the top panel. Now the bottom panel is coming a little bit extra because it depends on the gap you have given on the zip. If you have given more gap, then you'll have more fabric. If you have given less gap, then this will probably be a little bit shorter. So now is the time to go and trim it, because it's important that it matches the side seams. So whether this is shorter, that's shorter, kind of make it even, so the front will match to the back. So after we've done that, now go ahead, spread it again and spread your lining on top just to make sure that they match perfectly. So now I'm going to go ahead and trim this excess off. The next step is we need to attach this flap. So let's go to the back side where the zipper is, and we're going to place it. I mean, it's all kind of visual. If you think you wanted it to be slightly higher, go ahead and do it. I kind of fancy doing it about there, because then I'll have about that much coming in the front, because remember, you're going to have a zipper on the top of the bag as well. So go and place it like so, and I'm going to go and stitch just on this line here on the mitre corner and then at the bottom. So the rest of the flap here will be free, because later on we won't be able to do it, because then we'll have the lining and then the zipper, so it will be in my way. So I'm going to center it like so, and just make sure that it's this equal distance from here, also equal distance from the top, so it's not wonky. And I'm going to pin it, and then we're going to go and sew a stitch on top of the flap. I'm going to start somewhere in the center where I've already got a stitch. So I'm going to start on top of that and then come back and finish at the same position. So then we're going to go and mitre the corner on top of the fold. Turn over on the corner again. Now fold this into half and make the side seam kind of match in a straight line. And before we go ahead and put the zipper, we need to attach the other part of the magnetic clasp. I'm not going to hold it close to it because it kind of gets stuck. All I need is a center point. So I'm going to go and place a pin in the center point. So it's exactly right dead in the center. So that's my center point, and that should match perfectly. So there's my pin. Now I'm going to go and place my attachment. This is going to go at the back, and where I need to make a little cut mark, I'm just going to make a little pen mark. That way I've got the marking. So now if you go and place it, that should match perfectly. So we're just going to cut a little hole, and before we cut a hole, this is the double-sided fusing. I need to make the same kind of hole here. This is quite flexible fabric, and it needs something like a little hard substance. We're not going to sew, we're just going to place it like so, so it's got some strength from behind. So I'm just going to go and approximately sort of match it. It doesn't have to be absolutely right, because that's going to be hidden at the back. So I'm going to place a couple of pins at the top and the bottom. And now with a craft knife, I'm just going to make that hole. And that's going to pass through my fabric and also the double-sided fusing at the bottom. And now I'm going to pass it through like so, and we're going to go from behind and place this attachment and basically fold it in like how we did before, like so. And that's way it is sitting secure. Now I can remove my pins, and if I go and place it, and that should place it perfectly. Okay, before we go ahead and attach the zipper, I just thought that I wanted some more pockets. This is not in the pattern. Basically, I've just taken 2 pieces of fabric. I'm going to place it one on either side, just bind the edges with a red bias binding, and then fold and stitch here. So that way I'll have 2 kind of slip pockets, which is quite handy. I'm not going to make it like a pleated one, just a plain one, and just sew in the middle as well. Here is the lining I have prepared, and this is a big patch pocket, and there are 2 small pockets here, and I've made a compartment in the center. I'm going to keep my lining aside, and we're going to work with the main fabric for the zipper. So for the zipper, I had a long zipper and I have cut it short to the size I need. The way you do it would be to leave 3/4 of an inch in the beginning and 3/4 of an inch at the end. You start measuring the zipper from the beginning here till the end, so that should fit in within 3/4 of an inch on either side. The reason being, we're going to sew a 1/2 inch stitch, but that 1/4 inch gives you that extra little bit of allowance just to make sure the zipper sits right. Okay, so the zipper is cut off now, so I'm going to take a little vice binding, fold it into half like so, and we're just going to edge stitch this so it kind of neatly finished at the end. We're going to place the binding like so and just do a stitch at the end. There's the zipper. We have just kind of finished the edges, so let's turn this over like so. Also at this stage you've got to make sure that this zipper opens and closes the right side, because this is going to be the front. If you're going to wear the fabric on your right hand side, then this zipper should be on your left hand side like so, because that's where you're going to open from your right hand side. Okay, so let me place this in the center of this fabric. So distribute this properly on either side like so, and we're going to go and sew an edge stitch, and when we come to the beginning of the zipper here, we're just going to pull this away so that there's a little metal catch at the beginning of the zipper. After that, the zipper tape will kind of go into the seam like so. That's where we're going to start, and just going to position my needle right. And as we come to the beginning, I'm just going to pull the tape inside like so. This is where we have sewn the zipper. Now we're going to turn this like so, bring the other side of the bag and match your side seams. Just make sure that it's in a straight line, and then we go ahead and sew the other side of the zipper. Again, we're going to pull the beginning like so. That's how it looks, the zipper sewn in on both the sides. So now we're just going to open it like so, and we need to attach the lining. So place your lining with the wrong sides facing like so, and now we're going to go and place one part of the lining like that and match the beginning and the end like so, and we're going to go and sew from the beginning here and somewhere till the middle, not all the way till the end, just only somewhere until the middle, because we need an opening later on to kind of turn the bag inside out, and that part we're going to finish later. Okay, that's where we have sewn. Now just lift this over like so, and we come to the other side of the lining like that, and now again sew from here somewhere till halfway through. Just sewing on the same stitch we have sewn before, that I can see. Let's have another look, and that's how it looks. So now we're going to go and sew the side seam, this side where we have kind of closed the lining. So let's go ahead and sew this lining all the way from there till the end, and this is a 1/2 inch stitch. Whilst we are sewing, just make sure that the zipper is kind of, when you come to the zipper, your stitch is really neat, because this is going to be cut off. So let me just go ahead and trim, leaving a little bit excess. I'm going to trim that off, and this part of the pocket is going to lay flat like so. If you need to pin it, go ahead and pin it. Now you can see there's a little bulge coming out. That's only because my flap is kind of not sitting the right way up. So I'm going to match the side seams here so that that's kind of perfect, and go and pin, and then we're going to go and sew a straight stitch, starting and finishing with a back stitch. We're going to sew a 1/2 inch stitch, starting and finishing with a back stitch. This is the seam we have just sewn in. We need to sew on the other side. Before we do that, because of the finishing, we need to fold the zipper and the seam allowance towards the inside, and this one towards the outside like so. Match it, and now we're going to go and sew a 1/2 inch stitch, starting and finishing with the back stitch from here to here. And when it comes to this side, we're going to go and sew a 1/2 inch stitch without folding it. We'll fold it later. I'm going to hold the fold like so. In fact, it might be a good idea for you to just close the zipper just for now. So that way you will know where to fold, and you'll have the right amount, like so. I'm going to pull the zipper tape away, and okay, I've just opened the zipper from underneath, and this is the seam we have just sewn. So let's go ahead and sew this side as well. This time we're not going to fold, we're just going to sew from start to finish. Okay, we have sewn in this side, and now we need to go and open the seams. I know it's difficult when you have quilted your fabric, it's kind of quite thick and puffy, but try and open the seams on both the lining and the main fabric as much as possible. Got to be careful that you don't iron on the polyfill, otherwise it will end up all curling up and melting with the iron. So you just need to be really careful with this, or just use a cotton sheet on top when you're doing this. Okay, so now we have opened the seams. Now let's take these two corners, exactly like how you would do in a tote bag or any other bags I've shown you. So basically hold the corners in like so, and we go ahead and match this corner, open the seams, and we just go and close this gap. The same way we're going to go and close this gap as well. Not the opening gap, the one at the bottom. Okay, we're going to close one side of the bottom, and this is just a 1/2 inch stitch. Now we're going to go and close the other side as well. Just makes it a little bit tricky because the base is quite small, but it's still possible. Okay, that's how the base looks. Now if you turn it in, that should sit neatly. And now what we're going to do, we have a little opening here. We're going to turn everything inside out. Okay, when you turn this over, that's how it looks, and we just need to close this opening here. Before we can do that, we just need to make sure that we have attached the D-rings. Now you have a choice of doing it several ways. The reason I do it like so is because I wanted to hold this like so. It's in an angle. So once I have got my side seam fixed, I'm just going to open a little bit of the side seam and go inside, turn it over again, and kind of hold it like so. But if you don't want to, then you could patch up on the top like that, or you could even think about, before you attach this binding, it could even go in the binding like so on both the sides. That's possible as well. There's various ways of doing it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open it up a little bit on the side, and we're just going to pass it from inside and then make sure it's kind of sitting in an angle. Before I do that, what I normally do is I just go ahead and trim this in an angle like so. So when I put this into my seam, it goes in and it's still in an angle. Okay, that's just practice that, you know, you will learn how to do this. So I'm going to hold it as a template and just go ahead and poke that corner. So now when I go and do that, they both are going to sit like on the side like so. This is basically a bias binding, and I haven't done anything at all, because when it's gone into the seam, the folds won't open up at all, so that's absolutely fine. So now let me just go ahead and open a little bit of the seam, turn over and finish in the side. Okay, I have opened a little bit of the seam, so I'm just going to hold it in, pass it like so. And basically the angle that we have cut, this needs to just go and edge the seam. If you need to open your seams a little bit more, just go ahead and do that. But all you have to do now is you don't have to go back and forth just to make sure this is right, and just edge the edge of this bias binding to the edge of the seam, and all we're going to do is just close the seams. That's where my bias binding is, which is holding the D-ring. Now I just go ahead and sew on top of the stitch we have sewn, so that will just close the seam. So now we've sewn in the D-rings on the side, so put this back up, and that is like two little ears sitting around the side. If we put the handle like so, then that kind of holds it properly, and that's great. And also when you close the flap, that just clicks in absolutely fine. Okay, so let's put this back up, and all we need to do now is just fold the lining like so, and go and do maybe a tacking stitch first before we can close it on the machine. And it's probably best to do a hand stitch. It's much neater when you do a hand stitch, but you can also just go halfway through, sew it on the machine as well. Okay, I'm just doing a little tack stitch just with a single strand of thread, so that kind of holds in place so I can go and sew on a machine. So basically you just hold it like so and just keep it in place. Some people call it a basting stitch, but I always call it tack. It's just closing this gap here, and we're going to go and give it a good iron and a press so we can go and close it on the machine. Okay, so there you have it. That's how you close. You can just go and do a close hand stitch, so that's completely finished. Or we can also go and do, this is called stitch in the ditch, and we're going to go and sew from wherever possible, because if we start sewing on the quilted fabric, then it's got to come all the way from the beginning. So we're going to go and sew that like so, all the way till here to here, and then the gap is closed. Okay, I've just removed my attachment on the machine here because it's just easier to maneuver and kind of push my bag away. So we're going to start a little bit behind where we need to start. We're just going to go and sew right next to the quilted fabric, and if I can show you there. So this is called stitch in the ditch. As we come to the center, we can just go and sew on top a little bit, and then go back to sewing on the stitch in the ditch. Okay, now that's how it looks from inside, all neatly finished, and you've got loads of compartments, and you can even keep a little diary. This is more like a travel bag to keep your passports and things like that. Thank you for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know what you think by leaving a comment in the comment box below. If you have any suggestions or variation you would like to see in the future tutorials, please do let me know. I will see you in the next project. Bye bye for now.